Have you ever seen places in America teeming with ghosts? From gloomy abandoned hospitals with hidden corridors to rooms in the White House? I'll tell you about the most dangerous and eerie places that it's better not to venture into even during the day. And at the end, I'll even show you the hotel from which Kubrick borrowed for his Shining, where real horror lurks. But let's start with the classics of eerie places in America, the former Uwharrie Hills Hospital, where its entire history is connected with deaths and ghosts. In the late 19th century, people died by the hundreds of thousands from tuberculosis as there were no antibiotics. The city of Louisville, with its marshy surroundings creating perfect conditions for the spread of mycobacteria, was no exception. In 1910, a small wooden hospital was built there for tuberculosis patients, which immediately became overcrowded. The smell of death prevailed even at the approach to the city, and the epidemic did not subside. Authorities began to build stone walls and expand the hospital, but this did not change the situation much. People died every day. Cries of pain could be heard beyond the walls, and can you imagine this horror? Coughing and suffering of hundreds of people? Doctors tried to use all possible methods of treatment, from walks to recommendations to sleep with windows open even in the cold, believing that could destroy bacteria. The most extreme methods were used for the most severe cases. Some had air balloons implanted in their lungs, which were then inflated with air to facilitate breathing. There were cases when doctors resorted to removing ribs to reduce pressure on inflamed lungs. The darkest part of the hospital was the death tunnel. This 500-foot tunnel was used to secretly remove the bodies of the deceased to avoid panic and demoralization among patients. A motorized cart traveled through the tunnel, taking away the bodies. 50 years later, when medicine had advanced far ahead, a nursing home opened there. But the elderly constantly complained of strange dreams when they were taken somewhere in a tunnel and a strange cough that could be heard at night. Room number 502, where two nurses committed suicide in different years, enjoys a particular ominous reputation, as if a voice in their heads led them to it. Scary, isn't it? But that was just the beginning. What about entire ghost towns? The Pine Barrens of New-Jersey were once the center of prosperity in the colonial period. Sawmills and paper factories were actively working here, around which entire towns sprang up. But it didn't last long. With the discovery of coal deposits in Pennsylvania, many residents moved there, and the region began to decline, leaving behind only desolate ghost towns and numerous mysterious stories of ghosts and deaths. Some even tell of real monsters, for example, the Jersey Devil. Who is that? According to legends, this monster was born in 1735 and was the 13th child of Deborah Leeds. According to some versions, his mother was a witch, and his father was the devil himself who fed on infants. It is said that the child was born with real wings, a goat's head, and hooves, and immediately after birth soared to the sky and through the chimney, filling the county with a mad roar. Since then, the creature has caused terror among local residents, attacking livestock and emitting terrifying screams. By the end of the 1700s, the Jersey Devil had become a popular urban legend. Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon Bonaparte's brother and former king of Spain, allegedly saw this creature after building a mansion in the Pine Barrens, where he moved after his exile in 1813. In the 1840s, the Jersey Devil was accused of numerous attacks on livestock, and its presence remained a sensitive topic for the region's inhabitants. Jokes aside, even now, tourists sometimes hear sinister laughter in the silence. And I remember, I promised to tell you about the White House. Although it is considered one of the safest places in America due to the amount of security and various surveillance systems, it also has its mystical problems. Since 1800, starting with the second president, John Adams, the White House has been famous for its various paranormal phenomena. Sometimes, water opens by itself. Sometimes the ghosts of former officials wander around. More often, people talk about Abigail Adams, the wife of John Adams, whom witnesses saw in the East Room. As a ghost, she carried a laundry basket through walls. Or what about the ghost of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, who was seen playing the violin in the Yellow Oval Room? But most of the stories and testimonies are associated with the ghost of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the United States. Numerous witnesses, including famous political and public figures, claim to have seen him transculent, walking through the offices. Even British Prime Minister Winston Churchill encountered Lincoln's ghost while staying in the president's bedroom, and Churchill was quite shaken by this encounter. He called the security to the room and demanded to be moved to another room. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands even fainted upon seeing Lincoln's ghost during her visit, miraculously held by assistants. Horrifying, isn't it? And what do you say about the darkest house in the USA? The Uэйli residence in San Diego, according to Life magazine, holds the title of America's Most Haunted House. And I'm not surprised, as the building stands on the site where people were hanged and their bodies stored. For instance, the execution of Yankee Jim Robinson. This outlaw was hanged here in 1852. According to witnesses, his legs scraped against the wooden wagon for a long time as he slowly suffocated, swaying in the air. It's believed that these terrifying moments of his dying agony felt an imprint of his soul on this place. This creaking of the floorboards, that's the first thing the Uэйli family started complaining about. Thomas, who witnessed this execution, bought the plot of land and built a house on it a few years later, despite the land's grim history. Strange decision, right? The Uэйli family soon after moving in began hearing sounds of heavy footsteps as if a large man were walking around the house and shuffling his feet. Needless to say, did all the family members eventually perish under strange circumstances? Even the neighbor's child died, getting tangled in laundry lines. Madness, right? These noises didn't stop for many years, and the last surviving Uэйli daughter was convinced that the house continued to be haunted by the ghost of Yankee Jim, who decided to destroy her family. In 1960, the house was even turned into a museum as practically every visitor heard the sounds. Some saw the ghosts of the Uэйli family themselves, while others saw a phantom dog resembling a terrier once owned by the family. Thus, the Uэйli house remains one of the most famous and mysterious haunted places in the USA, attracting paranormal enthusiasts and history buffs from all over the world. I wouldn't dare to go there for any amount of money. Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, located in a secluded forest on the outskirts of Chicago, has become famous as one of the most haunted places in the United States. It earned its reputation thanks to over 100 documented cases of ghost sightings, mysterious lights, and other supernatural phenomena. What happened there? For example, there's an entire ghostly farmhouse in the middle of the cemetery which shimmered from afar but disappeared when people approached. They also saw the farmer himself plowing the cemetery with a plow. Regular encounters with ghostly cars on the road, which seemed stuck in the 1940s, simply drove through the witness. Sometimes, a woman in white clothes would just appear out of nowhere, causing people to crash into trees while trying to avoid her. And how do you explain that to the insurance company afterward? And what do you do if you get into a car accident in America? Where to turn for help? Where to find a competent lawyer? How to get compensation if you don't have insurance? DTP America Company helped its clients receive $21 million in compensation. Here, they will definitely answer all your questions. Link in the description. New England bridges have long been shrouded in mysterious legends and ghost stories. One of the darkest is Emily's Bridge in Stowaway, Vermont. According to legend, in the mid-1800s, a young woman named Emily committed suicide on this bridge by hanging herself after her lover failed to show up for a meeting. They were supposed to run away together from the town, but he betrayed her. Since then, Emily's ghost has been wandering the bridge, scratching cars and people who cross it. And how do you explain those scratches on your back later? Just kidding, but the place is really grim. Local authorities even restricted access to the bridge at night. Another example of paranormal activity is the Eunice Williams Bridge in Greenfield, Massachusetts. It was named after Eunice Williams, who was killed in 1704. Indians captured the girl along with other residents of the English settlement of Deerfield. She was killed by a tomahawk blow during the march of captives across Green River. The girl found it difficult to move due to her injuries and asked for help, but they simply decided to get rid of her. According to legend, the spirit of Eunice Williams is often seen by the water under the bridge, which is built on the site of her death. Scratching others, she's just trying to grab hold and ask for help. That's the story for you, and I'm getting goosebumps just by talking about it. One of the most sinister places in New Orleans is the Lalori Mansion, located in the French Quarter. This house became the scene of horrifying events in April 1834, when charred slaves were discovered after a fire. They seemed to be at every house back then, but these were locked in a secret room in the attic where they had been tortured for a long time. Their bodies were mutilated not only by fire. The house owner, Madame Lalori, was forced to flee the city after the story became known to the public. Since then, it's said that the spirits of her victims haunt the mission, and this house has become one of the most famous places for paranormal enthusiasts. What's going on there? Strange rustling in the walls, some scratching under the roof, and sometimes eerie screams that sound from afar. Even the bravest ghost hunters didn't dare spend the night there, and I understand them. But sometimes, it's not just a specific place that's cursed, but the whole land. What could have happened there? Gettysburg, Pennsylvania has gone down in history as the site of the largest and bloodiest battle of the Civil War in the USA, which took place in 1863. Park visitors often report ghostly sounds of battle, echoes of cannon shots, and the cries of soldiers passing through the centuries. Particularly notable is Devil's Den, a rocky outcrop where the fiercest battles for hide took place during the battle. It is said that here you can hear drumming and gunfire, and sometimes people notice the ghost of a talkative soldier dressed in deerskin clothing. During the filming of the 1993 movie Gettysburg, the actors even met a man in tattered Union Army uniform who gave them real Civil War musket cartridges mistakenly taken for props. Sachs Bridge nearby also attracts ghost hunters' attention. According to legends, 3 Confederate soldiers were executed here, and many witnesses claim to have heard gunfire and the sounds of galloping horses, seen strange mists and glowing lights. Some even speak of the smell of smoke hanging in the air, reminiscent of the last days of General Lee's army retreat after the defeat at Gettysburg. And where would we be without mysterious lighthouses? It's a classic haunt for poltergeists. The St. Augustine Lighthouse, located on Anastasia Island in Florida, is one of the most famous and mystical lighthouses in the United States. One of the most touching and mysterious stories associated with this place involves 2 young girls who died in an accident during the building's construction. The girls were playing near a cart used to transport construction materials when it unexpectedly broke loose and rolled down the hill into the water, causing the children to drown. Since then, visitors and lighthouse staff have reported hearing children's laughter at night, and some claim to have seen the ghost of one of the girls in a blue dress with a blue bow, which she wore on the day of her death. Another well-known ghost is the lighthouse builder who roams around the tower. But he's not alone. The ghosts of 2 other former lighthouse keepers are also frequent visitors. One of them, Joseph Andrew, died in the 1850s falling from the tower. According to eyewitnesses, he enjoys strolling and smoking at night, truly a paranormal spot. And as promised, the Stanley Hotel located in S Park, Colorado, which gained fame thanks to Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film, The Shining, and Stephen King's novel of the same name, inspired by his visit to the hotel. Hotel staff tell of various paranormal phenomena, ghosts unpacking guests' bags, turning lights on and off, and ghostly children's laughter echoing in the corridors, just like in the movie. Room 217 is infamous, where a maid had an accident in 1911. She was blown out of the window due to a gas explosion, but she survived. It was in this room that Stephen King and his wife stayed, which inspired the writer to create his famous work. In addition to room 217, room 428 is said to be inhabited by the ghost of a cowboy who sometimes appears at the foot of the bed and stares intently at the person lying there. Add to that the fact that there are also underground tunnels beneath the hotel, which were once used by staff, where cries and moans can also be heard. The place perfectly matches the movie and the book. These were the darkest and most haunted places in America, some of which I'd personally like to visit. And that's all. Thank you for watching and subscribe to my channel.